This video, by the way, will lose a few subscribers. Don't care, don't care. The truth is the truth, and there just aren't enough people who are willing to tell the truth, even though it might come at a cost. And we need that right now. Over the weekend, AOC, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, responded to a post of mine on X. Now, I was responding to a post of hers, did not expect a response from her. She doesn't like to really converse with progressives or people on the left as much as you would think, unless they're 100% friendly and will give her softball interviews. In that case, she'll be friendly with you. But if you're gonna challenge her, she hates you. And so I did not expect her to respond to anything. Now, let me give you her original post, my response, and then how she responded. She wrote, today, the FBI and NYPD disrupted a plot by a member of a pro-Israel terrorist organization to assassinate Nordine Kiswani. This is a reprehensible act of political violence. There is no place for it in our city nor our country. I am thankful Ms. Kiswani is safe and the assailant is under arrest. So I responded, and admittedly, in a kind of bitchy way, you should vote to send Israel more money for weapons, with a winky face. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic there. And what drove that response is basically the fact that I'm sick of AOC being incredibly weak on things that she shouldn't be weak on, especially at a time when overwhelmingly Democratic voters are against what Israel is doing, are against unconditional support toward Israel. And that includes, by the way, funding military aid for Israel, whether it's offensive weapons or defensive weapons, because guess what? Money is fungible. And I think that, and I mean, I don't think, I know based on now multiple organizations, including organizations within Israel, that Israel carried out a genocide in Gaza. That continues, by the way. They're trying to do the same thing in southern Lebanon. They already noted that they're going to annex southern Lebanon, just take the land. They displaced 1.2 million Lebanese people. They won't be able to return to their homes. So they're committing these atrocities and war crimes. Why would you want to give them any money for anything? I don't want to fund their Iron Dome. The fact that they have that defensive capability emboldens the Israelis to carry out more war crimes without any fear of consequences, blowback, repercussions. Not a good thing. But nonetheless, she did respond to me, and she demonstrated that she does have some Trump-like responses to members of the media who dare challenge her. So she wrote, I never have, feel free to continue lying publicly though. Those checks don't cash themselves and you aren't talented enough to be relevant with the truth. I don't know what that last line means at all. You aren't talented enough to be relevant with the truth. So I guess she's asserting that I lied about her voting record, which if I found that I was wrong, that I was mistaken, for instance, because why would I lie about someone's voting record? Everyone can check your voting record, homegirl, everyone. So if I'm making a mistake, that's embarrassing and I want to correct that mistake, but I didn't make a mistake. She lied. So let's get to the details here. In 2021, and this was actually a smaller offense, although it was a devastating sign of weakness. Back in 2021, when Israel had a sweet economic surplus and we were drowning in $28.4 trillion in debt, the House Republicans specifically had proposed sending Israel an additional $1 billion for their Iron Dome system. And that was on top of the $3.8 billion we already send them every year. Why would we send them more money when A, they have an economic surplus? How about you pay for your own damn weapons and defense capabilities? We're in debt, they have a surplus. And they have the freaking audacity to ask us for an additional $1 billion, okay? So originally, AOC was on the right side. She was gonna vote no. And then, and you see it on video, by the way, Nancy Pelosi, mama bear, she has a conversation with AOC and pressures her to change her vote. And guess what? AOC changed her vote from no to present, effectively making her useless, totally useless. And then she cried about it. Here's Breaking Point's reporting on it at the time.
8 progressives plus Thomas Massie, a Republican, they voted against, even on the floor in the full vote, they voted against funding Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. AOC originally voted against it, and then at the last minute changed her vote to vote present. And this is the scene that unfolded on the House floor. For those of you who are listening, what's gonna happen here is she walks out, she's clearly upset, she's wiping her eyes, and she later on confirms that she was in fact tearful and weeping on the floor of the House. Let's take a look at that.
Designated by Mr. Lawson of Florida, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
For what purpose?
Yeah, so
she's wiping her eyes. She's being, I think that's Barbara Lee who's consoling her. She's clearly very visibly upset, and we're all going like, what the hell is going on here?
No one can force you to change your vote. You changed your vote because you got a little bit of pressure and you didn't like the pressure. You want to get along with your Democratic colleagues, so you changed your vote. Effectively making your vote useless because you voted present. So look, the reason why I'm so tough on AOC is because of the whole reason why she was elected in the first place. The whole reason why she challenged a Democratic incumbent, a corporate Democrat. The idea was to transform the Democratic Party. No more, we gotta pick the lesser of two evils. We want a party that represents us. And in order to do that, you need, challengers to the current incumbents who have been captured by moneyed interests. Now, AOC is not captured by moneyed interests, as far as I can tell. She hasn't taken AIPAC money. She just wants to go along to get along, I guess. I don't know, but that is the opposite of what you got elected to do. I love your fiery speeches, they're great. They don't do anything though. When push comes to shove and you have an opportunity to show us that you're gonna do something with your vote in the very least, to cave to the likes of freaking Nancy Pelosi shows a devastating level of weakness. So that was a big red flag and embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. Okay. She didn't vote yes in sending weapons to Israel or funding weapons to Israel in that case. But she caved to pressure and voted present, okay? And then last year, and this is what really frustrated me, she voted against then Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment to cut military aid to Israel. Now again, it was, but it was defensive military aid. I don't care. Again, money is fungible, and if you call Israel an apartheid state, which she has in the past, why would you give any support to an apartheid state? Now look, I used to be wrong on this issue myself because I was just wrong. And I'm happy to admit I was wrong. There was a point in time where I was totally okay with funding defensive capabilities. No more, because I realized when you do that, when they have these superior defensive capabilities and they can carry out atrocities, genocide without any fear of blowback, well then they're gonna be emboldened to carry out those war crimes and those atrocities. And that's what's been happening. The other thing is money is fungible. So if they're genuinely taking money from us to fund the Iron Dome, well, that frees up money to buy other weapons, doesn't it? To continue committing the atrocities. So I changed my mind on the issue when I was presented with really good arguments. And that's okay, it is okay to change your mind. It's okay to admit you're wrong. In fact, if she had done that, I would respect her like crazy because it shows, no, this is a person who wants to get to the bottom of things. She cares about what's right, even if it means admitting she was wrong previously, but that's not what happened here. I'm the untalented one. She's the super talented one who cried on the House floor and then a few years later voted no on an amendment that would cut $500 million from Israel's military aid. So let's take a look at this video because here's Marjorie Taylor Greene explaining what her amendment would have done.
The the American people are $37 trillion in debt. So this is money that is being spent that they already don't have. My amendment would strike $500 million in funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense system. And it's important to phrase it that way. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation, which is very capable of defending themselves, and they have been proving that so as we've watched on the world stage.
She voted against it. So not only did AOC vote against that amendment, she pretty vociferously defended her vote. So to tell me I've never voted to send money for Israel's military aid, like to tell me that is insane. You've never voted yes on a bill to send money. Well, actually she has. I mean, she's totally in favor of sending defense capabilities to Israel. That's military aid. That again emboldens them to carry out atrocities without any fear of blowback. See, blowback is a deterrent. There's something valuable about fearing blowback. Fearing that your military activity is going to lead to a response that could get your people killed. You're gonna maybe rethink carrying out those military operations, no? But AOC decided to embolden them. She was very loud about defending her vote. Here's one example. This is Middle East Eye at the time, reporting about how she defended herself. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defends decision to support military aid for Israel. The New York lawmaker has faced a deluge of criticism for backing funding for Israel's Iron Dome defense system for a second time. So she has voted yes in the past to provide, funding for the Iron Dome. And then in this case, she voted against a bill that would cut the funding to the tune of $500 million. Later at the Munich Security Conference that happened this year, she told Haaretz, quote, "I think that personally the idea of completely unconditional aid, no matter what one does not make sense. I think it enabled a genocide in Gaza. And I think that we have thousands of women and children dead. That was completely avoidable." It was completely avoidable, I agree. So wait, well, why did you vote no on the amendment again? I don't get it. And more importantly, why did you lie to everybody and pretend like you never did? When you vote no on an amendment that cuts military aid to Israel, that means you are in favor of sending military aid to Israel. About 8 months prior to her vote on Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment, this is on November 20th, 2024, she voted in favor of House Resolution 1449, which endorsed the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, meaning that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez supports the idea that criticism of Israel is the equivalent of anti-Semitism. So the framing over this entire incident was really interesting. Over at Mediaite, here's how they framed it. AOC drops the hammer on fellow progressive. I'm not a progressive. You aren't talented enough to be relevant with the truth. And when I say I'm not a progressive, I reject any and all labels. I don't want to be part of any tribe. I want to stick to the truth. And you just can't do that when you're in a tribe, okay? You just can't. Because the second you deviate, people jump down your throat, and I don't want to go through that again. I want to be my own person. I want to think for myself. I'm not part of any tribe. It's that simple. It's easy. If you listen to what I support and what I say, you can deduce, what are Anna's political leanings? But anyway, so already Alex Griffin headline is wrong, but okay. And then in it, Mediaite's worker Alex Griffin decided to outsource his research to Grok. Ex-users asked Grok to fact-check Kasparian and Ocasio-Cortez's rival claims about the New York Congresswoman's voting record. Quote, "No, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has never voted to approve weapon sales or major military aid packages to Israel," Grok replied. Oh, well then I guess it's settled. I guess Grok is correct, and this writer over at Media, I shouldn't, scratch the surface even a little bit to figure out what the truth is. But obviously, I just shared with you her legislative activity, which makes it clear that she supported sending military aid to Israel. Now, the final nail in the coffin for me when it comes to AOC was this moment at the Democratic National Convention. Now, if you weren't in attendance, you weren't at the convention, you probably don't know about the fact that there were some protests happening behind the scenes. And the protests were carried out by pro-peace protesters, pro-Palestine protesters who were outraged that one of Kamala Harris's surrogates, who happens to be Palestinian, was not allowed to speak at the event for even 5 minutes and give basically a pre-vetted speech. But she's a surrogate for Harris. She wants Harris to win. So what were they afraid of? That she was gonna go up there and start hounding Kamala Harris and destroying her chances at winning the election? Harris did a good job on that all on her own, number one. Okay, but remember, she did not allow one of her own surrogates who happens to be Palestinian to speak at the DNC and give a pre-vetted speech. And then Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told a massive lie about what Harris was doing about the genocide in Gaza. Take a look.
And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
No, she wasn't though. She wasn't. When asked by the ladies at The View how her presidency would be different from Biden's, she didn't have an answer. It'd be the same. Biden enabled genocide in Gaza, as we all know. By the way, speaking of Biden, when it was very clear to everyone in the country, everyone in the world, that Biden's brain was leaking out of his ears and he was not fit to serve another term, AOC demanded that he stay in the race. You remember that? Great political instinct, so talented. And the other thing about Harris was that she was pretty vicious to pro-Palestinian activists who would attend her campaign events. She never answered their questions, never took them seriously. She's working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire, not buying it. The other reason why I'm not buying it is because of what we heard from the US ambassador to Israel soon after the 2024 election. Because if Harris is no different from Biden, according to her on The View, well, it turns out that Michael Herzog, again, that's the former Israeli ambassador to the US. This is what he said. God did the state of Israel a favor that Biden was the president during this period. We fought in Gaza for over a year and the administration never came to us and said ceasefire now. It never did. And that's not to be taken for granted. So talk is real cheap. And I've been doing this for a really long time. I used to be the optimistic, starry-eyed young person who would hear these wonderful, Obama's 2008 speech at the Democratic National Convention. I was in the audience watching it. I remember how I felt, so excited. And then he was a massive disappointment. And that just kept happening again and again and again. It's been nearly 20 years. I'm sick of this. You got elected to not just be marginally better than the Republican Party, and for all the Democratic voters who get on my ass about oh, but you have to support her because she's a Democrat. No, I don't. I don't have to support anybody. I get to support who I want. And if she were elected to be a typical milquetoast Democrat in a purple district, okay, I get your argument, but that's not why she was elected. She primaried an incumbent who was set to be, the next Speaker of the House. She primaried that guy and won, which gave so many people in this country hope that maybe the Democratic Party is finally gonna transform after the shit they pulled in 2008 against Bernie Sanders. But it's tough to walk into a room full of colleagues who don't like you. I would know. But you wanna know something? Either you have values and you wanna fight for them and really fight for them, not just by giving speeches, but actually strategically have a plan. You wanna fight for what you believe in, then do it. And if you're not, and you get called out on it, calling me an untalented grifter? What are you, like a freaking streamer? Is that like that's what you've lowered yourself to? And if you're talking about cashing checks, please, for the love of God, reconsider whether you're gonna start calling out others for earning a living when we, the American people, fund your paycheck. So if you're wondering, why are you coming with all this heat for someone on the left? Well, why don't you save this heat for the right? The right tells us who they are. They straight up tell us to our faces who they are and what they're gonna do, and then they do it. AOC, on the other hand, was elected for something different. I have higher standards for people like that. And when they don't meet those standards, and instead attack people who wanna hold them accountable, yeah, I'm gonna bring the heat. It's that simple. Left, right, center. If you do the opposite of what you say you're gonna do, or if you don't live up to the expectations that you gave to the very people who got you in that position of power to begin with, don't be upset when you have a few honest people in the media who are willing to call you out. I've been at TYT for almost 20 years, okay? The claims of me being a grifter are so stupid. I drive a 2017 Honda Civic that on some days doesn't even start. And I have to call in and say I gotta work from home. We lost a huge portion of our audience when I was willing to deviate a little tiny bit from the far left on a few issues. But I did it anyway because I wanna be honest with my audience. I did it at a tremendous cost to me, a tremendous cost to Cenk. And I value him so much for sticking by me and letting me just be me. If I wanted to be a grifter, guys, you have no idea. My commentary on Israel has gotten me fired from one of my side jobs that I loved, but I tell the truth anyway. I risked losing that job because I want to tell you what I actually think. I promise you, I will always tell you what I think, and I'll always explain to you why I think it. But for the love of God, please deal with the substance of what I'm saying instead of allowing your brain to atrophy by just going to the you're just a grifter argument. It's so stupid, it's so weak, and it makes you look pathetic. Anyway, wow, that's been bubbling up inside me for a long time, huh? And if you want to call me a grifter and say like, oh, you're cashing check, okay, then show me the evidence. What checks am I cashing here at TYT, where I've been working for 20 years? You know, the place that got you elected, you know? The place that did dozens of interviews with you in the lead up to that election. Are those the checks I'm cashing that you're so upset about? I'll read some comments. And then we'll move on. This video, by the way, will lose a few subscribers. Don't care. The truth is the truth. And there just aren't enough people who are willing to tell the truth, even though it might come at a cost. And we need that right now.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.